welcome y'all to Backwoods Obscura, a podcast dedicated to the lore, legends, and myths surrounding the creatures that may lurk in your backyard. My name's Hewitt.
I'm Chris. How you doing, man?
Tired.
You're tired? I can understand that. I just went back to work on Thursday and I'm already tired.
I left my house Christmas Eve morning, returned to it later that evening, and made it back very late Christmas Eve, almost early Christmas morning, to retrieve my child's medication prescription, which led to a whole new adventure because in Louisiana, if it is a controlled substance, you can only get it by a written prescription. If you're in Indiana, it is only by electronic prescription. You know what saved me? And kept my vacation from being 2 days in Indiana? Costco.
All praise Costco.
I might be a Costco boy now.
Okay, so I know you're talking about something important, but I have been playing Magic the Gathering recently.
Did you go to Fantasy Costco?
Well, the thing is, I follow subreddits because I'm a filthy, dirty Redditor.
Mm-hmm.
And people throughout the holiday season have been posting pictures at Costco of all the decks, like the precons, like the commander decks they see at Costco, and I'm like, motherfucker. I'm so mad because they'll find the decks for like 20, 30, 40% off. And these decks usually run like $60 to $80.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, motherfucker. And they're all Lord of the Rings decks. I want a Lord of the Rings deck.
I'll be honest. I'm sorry. I didn't look for any of that at Costco. I got my child's medication.
I don't.
And then I went to the frozen food section, and Emily and I got some ginger pork soup dumplings. Fucking choice. Like we had them with beef. Like her mom made beef stew, and we got the leftovers, and Emily cooked those because we really couldn't transport them from Indiana to Louisiana.
Right.
And I will say this: the ginger is forward. The rest of it is a pork sausage, and if you mix it with beef stew, nice.
Did you put any soy sauce on it?
However, I got to ask you a serious question.
What's that?
Do you want to sell out?
We can sell out.
Sell out with me tonight.
What are we selling out about?
Wait,
what do you mean sell out?
Because all the Patreon supporters are going to give us a lot of money, and everything's going to be all right. And I can't say the rest of that song without having to pay royalties.
So we have a Patreon. We don't actually have a Patreon.
I've just put a curse on Chris to make a Patreon before this airs.
Oh my god!
Which means, hello everybody, it's December 2025.
It's December 2025. I hope you like our... Have you heard of Raid Shadow Legend? I'm kidding.
You know how many emails I've gotten for Team Bonus Action for Raid Shadow Legends?
Don't. You know what I just... Okay, have you uninstalled Honey yet?
I don't have Honey.
You never had Honey.
I never did Honey. I remember the McElroy family
doing Honey.
And then all of a sudden going, hey, guys, sorry.
Because it just recently came out that
it's a huge scam. Like it does like the movie Office Space and takes like the microtransaction aspect of it.
It's worse than that because the way it works is like you have affiliate links as like a content creator. So when someone clicks on your link and buys something from that link, like the cookies are like, you refer to that person to this place. So, therefore, you get a cut of that purchase.
Yeah.
Honey goes in, and if you click Honey when you're making that purchase, it erases the cookie of your affiliate link and puts its own cookie there. So, now it gets that. So, they probably stole, like, millions of dollars.
That's why Mark Rober didn't make more money than he did.
Yeah.
I don't hate Mark Rober.
Also, shout out to Markiplier does not listen to this. He never will, but,
Hey, Marky Moo, we love you.
But, he called it in, 2019. He's like, Honey seems like a scam.
Anyway, the reason I'm going to ask if we want to sell out is I have one of the most haunted houses to talk to you about. Take a guess. Which one is it? Most haunted houses.
Myrtles?
Nope. That's not haunted.
Damn. Like, you're going that what? You're going...
I will hit the Myrtles this year as hard as I can with their subway across the street asses.
McRaven House. We already did that.
That one's actually haunted. We know that one's actually haunted.
We did go there.
Like 99.8% that one's haunted.
You actually had a pretty, like...
Something put a foot in my back.
Shit. The Velasca Murder House?
No.
Winchester Mystery House?
No. We need to do that one this year, though.
Okay, so...
Think about our state.
Laurie?
Yee.
We're doing Laurie?
I got Laurie, man. I have hidden this on my computer all night. I had it open, and you walked over, and I was like, let me delete it.
Okay, we just did Okay, just peeling back the veil here. We just did Ed and Lorraine Warren, and you're like, we gotta do a fucking palate cleanser, and your fucking palate cleanser is goddamn Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's goddamn Laurie. Like, what kind of fucking...
So, the Laurie Mansion
right.
is at 1140 Royal Street in New Orleans, on the corner of Royal and Governor Nichols. The current house is not the one that Laurie's lived in because it burned down in 1834. So, if you go there today and all the ghost tourists stop in front of this, like, 3-story, fucking terrible, scary looking... Okay. To be fair, it was painted like slate gray forever.
So it's just like a boring ass looking house.
No, it's not boring.
No, I mean it was slate gray. I assume it's like some brutalist.
It's not so much brutalist as the current version was painted gray with white ornamentation, which meant it did stand out, but at the same time, it was like someone's trying to be like, I don't know, but I don't want nobody to look at my shit. I can keep moving. But every ghost tour stops by this place. But the current house there, much like our friend Don, who lives in New Orleans and is a full New Orleanian because the city adopted his ass after he ran off the res.
Okay, this is how New Orleans works.
It adopts you.
It adopts you.
Or if you're born there, cool. It adopts certain people.
Yeah.
And if New Orleans adopts you, be fucking wary.
The city has a mind of its own.
Like, every time I've only been in the city once and been made to feel uncomfortable. And that was for about 3 blocks. And I hustled my chunky ass back to Canal like, nope.
The weirdest experience I ever had in New Orleans, and I know we're getting off topic here, but like when Don was showing me around, this like years ago, I was like early 20s, and it was my first time in New Orleans. And like Don was like, yeah, let me just show you around here. I think we actually talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah, we did. It's not as bad as we found a dead body.
Yeah,
which has happened with Don.
Yeah, like Don just he happens upon shit, but I am like he just took me to like some obscure bar. I had a drink and then I went back, and knowing like the thing is Don is like the type of person that like. One, he's not going to take you in a straight line.
No.
He's going to show you across the French border.
I hate to say it this way. Don is so gay, he cannot walk a straight line. And I don't mean that as an insult. He will take you on the most interesting route. It will not be straight. And like, I mean that I kind of mean that bit as a double entendre because I've gotten free drinks with Don.
And the thing is, it's like, he showed me around the French Quarter. And then he showed me back. And that's the last time I saw, like, you had introduced me to Don via the internet.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I talked with him because I needed to talk. Because this is back in our steampunk days. I had to talk to him about, like, our airship Miro and having to do that. And he's like, And I was like, he asked me, it's like, what are you, like, are you just, like, staying here? It's like yeah, I'm just saying I'm probably going to go get a beer at this thing. It's like, don't get a fucking beer at the hotel. He's like, I know a place. And then he takes me all over fucking the French Quarter.
To get to a bar, you could have made it
Yeah. I don't know what bar it was. I honestly, if you took me to that bar now,
you wouldn't know it.
I wouldn't know it.
Look, it's just like when Don.
We just had a conversation about steampunk. We just talked. It was fun. He took me back. It was the same route back. It was the same fucking route back. This motherfucker knew the route he took.
Did he take you to Second Skin?
I don't know. I told you, I don't know what fucking bar it was. It doesn't matter.
Second Skin is a leather daddy shop. He took me there one time.
I don't give a shit. It was good beer. Like, it was good beer, good company, and I had fun. And like later that night or the next day, I went out with ASI, and I felt bad because I was super poor then, and like I was like hanging out with them and talking and everything, and then I checked my bank account. I had $11 in my bank account.
So you're like, I'm not buying a drink.
I go up to them. It's like, I'm sorry, y'all, I gotta go. I don't have any money. And then I go back to the hotel, weep, because I know exactly what my $11 at the time. This was like over 10 years ago. I was a smoker.
It was a pack of cigarettes and half a tank of gas.
Yeah, just that was my life then. Anyway, we're talking about the Laurie Mansion.
So the original Laurie home, was a 2-story feather-style exposed brick home, in the early 1800s. Now, the Federalist style of architecture was popular from 1775 till the 1830s. The style was more simple. It's in decoration than the Baroque Georgian style and stressed symmetry in design. Very square, very simple. Which, if you go through certain parts of the French Quarter that did not get burned down in the fire in the late 1700s, you will find buildings like this. Also, if you go to Washington, D.C., there is a lot of Federalist style. Now, in 1838, the present house was built for Charles Coffin by Pierre Trestur, who had bought the site. Originally, it was going to be built in the Empire style, like post-fire. The building you see is Empire style. It's influenced by Napoleon. Very Roman, large columns, status statement, covering up for a small ego. The home exchanged hands has exchanged hands multiple times. To deal to the current time period, one of the owners within our lifetime has been Nicolas Cage.
I have heard about that, yeah.
And then because he is bad with money,
it left his hand
very quickly, along with 2 castles in Germany. So
I love how that man just bought a whole bunch of bullshit and then was like,
and then ran out of money because no one cast him for. Okay, let's be fair. In the 90s, they wanted him to be Superman.
He was even fitted for the Superman outfit.
Like, and it was going to be 90s long-haired Superman. Like, you and I remember 90s long-haired Superman.
That would have been a cool-ass Superman. Have you seen the new Superman trailer?
No.
It's good. It's good.
Oh, wait, you're talking about the one with Guy Gardner being played by Nathan Fillion?
Yeah, and
he is
Crypto.
He has played 2 Green Lanterns now. And I understand why they're going with Guy Gardner. Because as much as I love Hal Jordan from like the Super Friends and my childhood, like Hal Jordan showing back up, Hal Jordan's a little problematic due to his girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's that, and also I think my man definitely has the Guy Gardner look down.
To be fair, Guy Gardner has the face that you want to punch, and as much as I love Nathan Fillion, when he was Captain Hammer, yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, he can either be the most charming motherfucker you ever meet, or he can be the most punchable motherfucker. He doesn't have that in between.
Let's be honest, Mao, though.
Mao walked the line.
Here's the deal. I might go gay for Mao.
God damn it.
I say that jokingly, but at the same time, Mao smiles and you're like, well, I'm on your crew now, you son of a bitch.
Well, let me get my stuff. And by the way, I'm taking off my shirt. How do you like my definition?
Mao, put it back on.
Put it back on.
God
What the fuck
damn
are
it.
you doing? You are a deckhand.
I'm over here rooming with Jane, and Jane's like, I'll be in my bunk, motherfucker. I'm just above you.
Stop that. I hear the bumping.
Stop waxing Vera. To be fair, Vera was a fine fucking gun. She could fire in 0G.
God
Anyway,
damn it.
so back to our point. In the 1870s, it became a integrated girls' boarding school. During Reconstruction, when Reconstruction ended, it became a African American girls' boarding school because nobody wanted to send their white kids there anymore. That tracks.
Right.
During the 1880s, the building was a conservatory for music. This is when it became known as the Haunted House, a title given it to by the Times-Picayune. So we got
the Times-Picayune coming back.
Time-Picayune comes back and says late 1800s, it's the haunted house in New Orleans. Now, from 1923 to 1932, it was run as the Warrington House to help indigent men, homeless, unemployed men.
Right.
So that's some history. Or that's a little bit of the building. Now, let's get the history. So, Edouard Dufassat, in 1831, sold an unfinished residence to Dr. and Mrs. Louis Lalaurie. The Lalaurie finished the home. Some stories list that this was Delphine Lalaurie's third marriage. A lot of stories said that. I did some additional research after I wrote this down. It was her third marriage. She was at 40. She was on her third marriage.
You know, some people are like that.
No. People die.
Oh,
Ways to die. 1,000 ways to die in the West. People die at the fair.
Right. Okay.
Now, supposedly her first two husbands died under mysterious situations. That's the New Orleans ghost story part. Her first two husbands died under mysterious situations.
Was it dysentery?
No. She may have abused her daughter and her young, handsome husband. Let me go ahead and say this. As I continue the story, Dr. Lalaurie is always described as young and handsome.
It's a perspective from Mrs. Lalaurie.
No. Okay. It's like if you read a bunch of stories like, how do you know that individual is a noble in a lot of myths? Well, he doesn't have shit on him. To quote Monty Python, he's a king. He ain't got shit on him. Or like if you read like, why is Prince Ivan obviously a prince to everyone, even though he's been raised by millers? Well, god damn, he's hot. Like that's the story. Like here's the thing is, every time I read the story, Dr. Lalaurie, all 25 years of him, was listed as a very attractive young man. However, I want you to know that and note it when I start to describe Madame Lalaurie. This is a young, handsome man married to a shrew. That is the story for him. Now, she threw massive, lavish parties, and she was noted as a true New Orleanian socialite. She was also noted for being extremely cruel to her slaves. So, by the way, taking a pause here. Hey, this is Future Hewitt here. Anybody that's listening to the story, we're going to talk about some spooky ghosts, but also cruelty to enslaved individuals, because we're talking about the South in the pre-Civil War era. So, hey, if it's not your bag, we get it. But if you want to keep listening with us, just be forewarned, we're gonna get gruesome. Like 1970s slasher film gruesome.
Enjoy.
Love y'all. Now, in 1828, she was investigated for cruel treatment of an enslaved person. Which here's the deal. That's actually a law in Louisiana at this time. No other southern state really enforced this, but Louisiana, where we had free people of color and people that were Creole, or to use a term that you're not comfortable with, but was a term, free mulattoes in Louisiana. Yeah. We actually had laws in this state that you can't treat your slaves like absolute dog shit.
So they're like, you can do the dog shit. But don't go to the absolute right.
Like, don't go Megatron. If you go Starscream.
It's like, okay. I know this is like a question that is probably going to be hard to answer, but would you be able to tell me like how enforced that law was?
Probably
not that
outside
much.
of the state of Louisiana? No. Outside of big cities? No, because I want you to understand, when I get to this, she had a plantation in what is now the lower 9th Ward. She had a plantation off of near Rampart.
Okay, so she was like...
She had multiple plantations around the city of New Orleans. Areas that are now 100% urban were cotton field and agricultural.
That's crazy to think about. Like,
but
we've been there multiple times.
Yeah, I know.
It's like,
I've driven past a couple of these places and gone, there's like a whole ass mile of city that direction. And it used to be 35 acres. She had multiple plantations. Like, I want everybody that's listening to this to understand, the wealthiest 1% of Southern society didn't just have one plantation. They didn't have themselves like a Moonlight and Magnolia Scarlett O'Hara bullshit. They had plantations everywhere. Like when we talked about McRaven House, they had a plantation off of the Mississippi River in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Vicksburg was their city home.
It's crazy to think about.
It is, but it also isn't. Think about how much land some of the wealthiest individuals in our country own today.
Yeah.
Like, you can't throw a rock without finding something that, fucking Bill Gates owns.
Or just any...
And he's not the worst. Like, that's what's sad. He's not the worst.
I think Musk is buying up shit in Texas right now.
He's trying to start a company town. Fuck that guy. Anyway. Catching back up to where my bullet points are. The court case was lost due to fire. But there were receipts for legal fees and selling a large number of slaves to cover the legal costs by Madame LaLaurie. Now, the reason this happened is because there were multiple reports of the extremely cruel treatment by Lady LaLaurie to her slaves, by neighbors and by people near her additional plantations, and even before she married Dr. LaLaurie.
That has gotta be like... Dude, it's pre-Civil War in the South, and people are like, yo, you are like...
Let me pick up my non-existent phone.
Yo, you are like really... You are fucked up. You are so fucked up. Stop torturing these slaves.
So now...
Like, being someone like that in the South is... In that time...
Yeah, it's one of those, like, she had to be... terrible. Now, according to the New Orleans Beat, a French language paper, 7 mutilated slaves were found in her attic later on. And a lot of the stories about her cruelty come from the New Orleans Bee, again, the French language paper. Now, at some point in the 1830s, there was a fire. The smell from the attic was so thick that the firefighters vomited when they first opened it. They found 7 chained people by their necks to the wall. Portions of the bodies were missing. Now, this is a truthful portion of all part of the stories. The Lalauries fled to Paris via Lake Pontchartrain by boat to a naval vessel and left. Both Lalauries bounced.
So they just like traversed like the
They left New Orleans, went to Lake Pontchartrain, got on a boat, and then moved that and eventually got out of Lake Pontchartrain and found an ocean-going vessel that had docked and just like, we're going back to fucking France.
Jesus.
All the Lalauries.
So just like the whole family is like, yeah, we're going.
Boop! So
did they have any like riches on them or anything, or are they just do they just have like the name?
Well, let me get to that. Now, Madame Delphine may actually be buried in St. Louis number 2 because they still owned a plot there, and her body was exhumed from a grave in France and sent back to the United States to be buried.
That's a weird thing to do.
Well, if you cemetery plots in Paris,
oh yeah, they're
are kind of like New Orleans. Like New Orleans has rent. New Orleans has rent on its ossuaries, which I don't want to call them mausoleums because if you ever open one of them up, the bottom of one of those ossuaries is fucking bones.
Yeah. For our listeners at home, an ossuary is where you just put the bones.
Now,
note the name ossuary.
Now, when the firefighters were in there, they found individuals that had their limbs stretch unusually long. They removed everybody. However, most of those that they removed from the attic were actually dead. And they took the slaves to the Cabildo to be examined and treated. However, only a few of them actually survived because of the situation they were in. Now, one, according to the reports, was one of the chained victims had a hole drilled in his head, and it looked like his brain had been scrambled alive because a wooden spoon was sticking through the hole that was drilled in his head, and the inside was whipped like custard.
That's fucked up.
One had an arm surgically stitched to the center of his chest that was not his. The owner of that arm was never found. So he just had necrotized flesh stitched to his chest to see if maybe the arm might work.
So we're getting past sadistic.
No, not done. Let me continue on my slaughterhouse film description.
Okay.
A young girl had her arms and legs broken to resemble a frog or a crab, and they found her in a box. And when they released her, as she waddled down the road, she could not stand up more than 3 feet. So she had her bones intentionally broken and healed in the wrong direction, and she is either known as the crab girl, the centipede girl, or the frog girl.
I mean, she's probably lucky she didn't die of infection.
Oh no, she did eventually.
Well, I mean, everyone dies eventually, but...
No, I mean, like, shortly after, like, most of those they found in the attic did not survive more than a week once discovered. Now, another individual had been disemboweled, but not had anything disconnected, and had his intestines woven around him much like a scarf and a belt, so that the digestive tract could be observed after he had been force-fed. He died very quickly from infection because his gut was open.
You have any sort of like deep wound back then, and you're kind of just fucked.
Now, when workers cleared the site after the house had burned down, there was either 10 to 15 other people's ashes and bones found underneath the elevated floor of the first floor of the house. So more slaves had been killed and then hidden under the house. This is a story that every single ghost tour likes to tell about the Laurie Mansion.
Okay, so this is a story.
This is the story. These are the reports that are supposedly in newspapers from the time. And there's also a few that if you found one guy had a Glasgow smile cut and also had all the skin removed up to his ears around it so the muscular could be seen. According to one story, that the one individual had all their teeth pulled and had them replaced with stones.
I don't think that would work very well.
No, it wouldn't. So there's multiple stories about what was found in the attic and what was found underneath the house of the Laurie Mansion. Now, let me tell you about the most infamous socialite of New Orleans, Madame Delphine Lalaurie nee McCarthy. Her maiden name was McCarthy.
That's not a good...
Now, she was born in 1787. Depending on the record, she might have been born in 86 or 89.
Yeah, it's fuzzy.
Now, her family had fled Ireland to France to escape religious persecution because they were Catholic from the Protestant overthrow of England during the Great Revolution. So she escaped Cromwell. Her family moved from Ireland to France. Much like one of the most famous individuals in Louisiana history, his last name is Alejandro. And it's Alejandro, I forget his last name. But he was an Irishman that served in the Spanish military.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they were Catholic, escaping religious persecution by Puritans and later on Protestant English. Now,
British.
Her baptismal information was not entered until 5 years after she was born, but that's kind of...
I mean, that...
it tracks because they had to send that information to Rome. So...
they had to send it...
to Rome as devout Roman Catholics living in Spanish-controlled Louisiana. So, she grew up on a 1,300-acre plantation in what is now the Lower Ninth Ward. So pretty much all the Lower Ninth Ward was her daddy's plantation. And if you go to the Lower Ninth Ward, which I've been there, I don't know if you've been there.
I can't remember if I've been there or not.
I've walked the streets down there because most people will leave you alone as long as you look like you know what the fuck you're doing. I also helped put roofs on a couple houses post-Katrina. So it's one of those, like, if you go down there and you look through, you can understand that this used to be farmland, but today it's low-income housing. Now, she had a wealthy, privileged upbringing. Now, in 1807, her mother died, and her father started to cohabitate with Sophie Mousson, a free quadroon woman. He could not marry her because in Spanish colonial Louisiana, and then eventually United States Louisiana, post-1807 would have been the United States, he could not officially marry Sophie because she was not considered white. Right. She was a quadroon.
I hate that term.
Yeah. Be ready.
I'll try to be.
Be ready. We haven't gotten to the palate cleanser portion of this because you're going to laugh at least a couple points of this story. Now, Delphine did not like Sophie because, one, she was racist. Two, that's not my mama.
Right.
I mean, at this point, she's like in her late teens. That's not my mom. Now, Delphine also seemed to be angry at her uncles and brothers for having ongoing relationships with women of color that resulted in at least 10 different offsprings.
What?
From the McCarthy family line, which means, fun fact, much like Thomas Jefferson, there are more people of color that are descendants from the McCarthy family that Lady Lalaurie is from than there are white descendants.
Okay, like, it's not something I actually thought about, but it makes sense. Like, I didn't think about, like, the fact, like, fuck Thomas Jefferson, like, as a person, like, regardless of...
A couple people did.
God.
Probably not willingly. Oh, no. You want to get it worse? Let me make it worse. When she was the ripe age of 14.
You don't have to say it like that.
When she was still a child, she married the then 35-year-old widow Ramon Lopez y Aguelo de la Candelaria, who was second in control to the state of Louisiana, or the territory of Louisiana, to the royal Spanish governor. So she married his lieutenant.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Now,
Tight.
He lost his job for criticizing the crown and remarrying without permission, but got a pardon. He went back to Spain. He's like, look, I've gotten married to my new wife. I know you said it's not cool because apparently in my position, the king is supposed to say who I can and can't marry. And the king's like...
It's not because she's 14.
The king's over here like, don't you fucking marry a 14-year-old. Fucking bendejo.
Would they say that in Spain? I don't know what they say.
I don't know. The little bit of Hispanic heritage I have, bendejo comes to my mind so many times looking at somebody next to punta.
And we won't get into that.
No. The first thing anybody needs to learn in another language is swears. So, anyway, this is the other reason this motherfucker sucks. He reopened the slave trade in New Orleans without permission, which is another reason he lost his job.
Of course, we have... fuck. God damn it.
That you want to feel slightly better? While returning to Havana from Spain, his boat sunk and he died.
That's cool. I love that for him.
They hit a sandbar and he sunk in jail. So at some point, go ahead and tell you, Delphine, at this point, not quite Lalaurie, had been moved to Havana by her husband. Like, they had just left New Orleans, and then, like, she took an inappropriate field trip with an older man, is what this sounds like, and he died. However, she was pregnant.
Oh, fuck.
You want to know what's really fucked up? She named the child after her husband's first dead wife.
What?
Delphine gave birth to the daughter shortly after he died, and she named her after the husband's first dead wife. Also, so that we can get to this here in just a second, Ramon had several extramarital affairs with women of color, free and not free. So I'm just saying is, the reason we're doing this is so far we have this young woman.
Yeah, I love this palate cleanser we're having.
I haven't gotten to the part that's going to make you laugh. The reason I read through this is because so many people try to be Madame Lalaurie apologists. And at this point, it's like, yeah, she's kind of mad because her husband and her father and all of her brothers are like sleeping around with these women. But instead of blaming the cock that goes and finds a hole it doesn't belong in, she
always the women.
She blames the women.
Yeah. Now, of course, misogyny always fucking wins out.
Now, in 1807, shortly after she turned 20, she married Jean-Paul Blanc. Blanque. It's not Blanc like white. But
it's not like Blanc.
Blanc white. Now, let me tell you about the sus thing. He proposed to her just after she got her inheritance from her mother, because here's the deal: in Louisiana, women could still own property.
Oh, that's cool.
Because of Napoleonic Code. One of the few good things about Napoleonic Code. And so she inherited her mother. Her mother left her a plantation on the Mississippi, and her father gave her a smaller plantation off of Charter Street. All in all, about $2 million in property and land today. Now, Blanc also bought a home near the Bank of Louisiana where he was the director. However, when he died in 1816, heart attack, he somehow owned $2.5 million. Not today, $2.5 million. 1816, $2.5 million.
Oh my God, that's like...
And his property, like
he was a robber baron.
No. This dude was a charlatan. He owed $2.5 million. His
wait. Okay,
his personal assets were $160,000. He ran some fucking bullshit, my dude. Now, also, Blanc had multiple affairs with women of color, both free and enslaved.
Of course.
Now, and here's the deal: is he now this depleted Lalaurie's, or soon to be Lalaurie's, wealth, but her father died in 1824, leaving her half his wealth and his two older sons the other half. So, like, he's taking care of his baby girl. However, the free woman of color half sister that she had through Sophie was given $5,000 and 2 slaves for her betterment and goodwill. Do you realize, like, I'm over here going, Daddy didn't acknowledge me, but he gave me 2 slaves and $5,000.
I mean, I guess that $5,000 is
$5,000 back then was a chunk of change, but seriously, like, Motherfucker, does no one see the problem in the room? Does no one see the fucking 8,000-pound gorilla in the room?
So far, if I'm following the story correctly, Lady Laurie might have had her reputation a bit. Yeah.
So she's already on her second marriage, but here's the deal. I hate to say this. In the colonial period, early United States period, women having multiple husbands was not super unheard of because there's 1,000 ways to die in the fucking West, and we used to be the West. So, like, if all of a sudden she's like her husbands are dying because one had a heart attack and one fucking sunk in a boat, it's not her fault. Also, at this point, she's had 2 husbands, and she's like 25. I wasn't married yet, and neither were you at 25. Which, to be fair, neither of these men probably were on their second marriage at that point too. But
oh my god, so they were already like divorced dads.
Yeah, but like their spouse died.
Oh, right. Got dysentery, syphilis, all that.
Yeah, all that fun shit. Now, once it was revealed that Blanc had multiple affairs, this is the first time abuse of slaves with Madame Delphine had been noted. So it seems like, if stories are to be believed, she was taking out her aggression on slaves, not the people who actually deserved it, because the society at the time, and she was a complete machine of that. Now, in 1826, Dr. Louis Lalaurie was treating one of Delphine's children for a crooked back.
So scoliosis, essentially.
He was listed as a doctor who removed bends, humps, and malformities. This is where you're going to laugh. Dr. Louis Lalaurie was a chiropractor before they learned what it was from a ghost. So Dr. Lalaurie wasn't a fucking doctor. He was a in the strip mall, crack the back motherfucker.
I'm tired, Hewitt.
Now, here's the deal.
This was supposed to be a good episode.
He was in his early 20s when he went to cure the hunches, bends, and belts of her child, and Madame Lalaurie was the catastrophic age. The spinster age, the forsaken age of 38. I'm 40. This one's 38.
I mean, like, okay, so if there's anyone that's listening to this podcast that is like sub 30 or sub 25,
38 ain't old.
38 is not as old as you think it is.
Trust me, give us about 5 years. Now, here's the deal. Is they were considered in the Times-Picayune as a unconventional love of the wealthy.
Oh, my God.
And that she was vamping the youth. She was robbing the cradle. And they even stated...
How old was she again at this point?
38, and he was listed as robbing the grave.
Wait, so she was 38. How old was he again?
25.
That's not... Okay, so the Zoomers will say that's a big age gap. Like, but...
That's a little bit more than Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally.
Like, that's... Like, if they were younger, that would be a problematic age gap, but at 27, you said?
25.
25 and 38, that's not the worst.
Actually, he was not quite 25 yet. Let me redact that. Now, here's the thing.
He was a doctor, though.
She also got pregnant out of wedlock with their first child. They were married 5 months after the birth of their son, but had the marriage license adjusted to both had his birth certificate and their marriage license adjusted, so he would have been born after they were married and may not have been Laurie's son. It might have been her child from a previous engagement. More or less, they tried to cover up that this bastard of theirs was born out of wedlock, which is not fair because today, who gives a fuck? But back then,
it was a big deal.
A lot of people. Now, several stories of the 25-year-old handsome doctor and his 40-year-old bitter shrew of a wife fighting were then making regular rounds through both papers and social circles. The reports of her cruelty became more frequent to both her sons, daughters, and husband and slaves. In 1833, the couple separated and the doctor moved to the plantation he had recently bought down in Plaquemines Parish. So he lived on the estate while she lived in the city home. Now, they did sort of make up, because they fled Louisiana together. Also, there's stories of maybe another kid or maybe showing up for a booty call in New Orleans. But let's be honest, with some of our friends we've had, your girlfriend's crazy. But all of a sudden she opens the door with nothing on but a smile, and all of a sudden, bonjour, mademoiselle. In any case, I'm not 100% on some of these stories. So, let's get into the ghosts. We've dealt with the drama. We've dealt with the drama.
There's so much drama and there's so much stories.
If these walls could talk, they would go, ah!
It's like, oh, damn, I'm a frog now.
Oh, shit.
I'm frogging around. That sounds like a sex. I am so sorry.
I'm just frogging up and down. I'm frogging to the left. I'm frogging to the right.
I'm tired of this joke now.
I'm frogging to the people that I like. I might. Anyway, so supposedly is the most haunted house and building in New Orleans. Is known to most locals not as the Laurie Mansion, but it was known as the haunted house. For the longest time, it was known as the haunted house. But if you call it the Laurie Mansion, it sounds better, even though the Laurie's never lived within the houses on the site.
So it's considered the Laurie Mansion, despite the fact that
it's on the location of it. That'd be like saying this is the most haunted McDonald's, yet an apartment complex got built over it.
It's like the Maison Rouge.
Yeah.
Where it's just a structure that was built on the Maison
Right.
Rouge. Yeah.
Now, there's orbs, shadow people, disembodied footsteps and voices, cold spots, and full-body apparitions have all been seen by multiple ghost hunting crews that have gone into the building. So there is evidence, however, you and I both know orbs are bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been a thing since 2007. Orbs are bullshit.
It's dust.
Yeah.
It's
or
a
it's
bug.
an insect, or it's moisture, or
I farted too close to the camera.
Yeah, it could be a billion things.
Now, there is a dark figure that has been reported more than once. The first time it was reported as an aggressive shadow person or demon that may or may not be responsible for the death of one of the men when it was an itinerant men home. Because it was turned into apartments, and really, he said a sprite was messing with him and he hung himself.
Oh, jeez.
Now, skeptic side of this, may have been a drug hallucination or might have been mental illness.
Or it might have just been a sprite was messing with them, was maybe it's flowery language for
Well, he was saying it was a sprite, saying it was a spirit fucking with him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that could still be flowery language. For,
right.
It's saying you're being haunted by demons.
Right.
Is kind of a more flowery way of saying, fuck, I am depressed.
Exactly.
I got issues.
Now, Madame Laurie supposedly scratches and strikes visitors. When the mansion was an African-American girl boarding school, several of the young girls said the mean woman was scratching them, pulling their hair, and punching them. Now, there is also Layla, or Leah, depending on how you want to pronounce it. She's a young ghost girl. She either died falling out of a window or sliding down the banister of the mansion. Now, the problem is that if she died sliding down the banister or falling out the window, neither one of those existed at the time of her supposed death. She died supposedly fleeing Madame Laurie's whip, causing her, because she pulled her hair while brushing it. So, Madame Laurie grabbed a whip and the girl ran and jumped out of window instead of getting whipped to death. Or she broke her neck sliding down the banister of the main stairs, but the problem is the main stairs didn't exist at that time.
They didn't exist.
Now, some stories she is a slave girl, other ones she is just a little girl. Some stories she is a daughter of Madame Lalaurie. However, many people do note someone tugging at their sleeve or their shirt tail or trying to grab their hand. And here's my deal. As a dad, a ghost grabs my hand, I'm going to want to try to help. And that's 100% how I die.
It's like, come on. And then the ghost is like, yeah, I got you.
It's like, bitch, I'm a devil.
I'm the Jersey Devil. I'm in Louisiana.
I'd fuck up the Jersey Devil quick. It's like
in the horse face, and it's like,
no, you just break its ankle. I mean, it's a freaking horse. It won't. Yeah. You go upstairs, and it's like, I have wings. Yeah, can you open them in this stairwell? No.
It's like the reason why I don't have centaurs in my games. It's like
I want to play an undead centaur so bad in somebody's game. What happened? I fell downstairs.
It's like I was turned into glue.
Boo. Now, let's talk about some truth here. Okay. Some of the water stories about Lady Lalaurie are very similar to those of Elizabeth Bathory from Eastern Europe, the blood countess who supposedly bathed in the blood of young women so that she could stay eternally youthful.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's because she's in Castlevania.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. Like, it sounds familiar because there was a billionaire that, like, took his son's blood and transfused it into himself.
Yeah, all the people that are doing the blood transfusion, very similar to Elizabeth Bathory.
I just want to say something there. That's not going to prevent you from dying. You're going to die.
No, at the same time, if you're watching Castlevania Nocturne that's on Netflix right now, the baddie is based off of her for that series. It is they used her in one of the additional Castlevania games, and they're just kind of building it because when you kind of kill off Dracula or you make Dracula not a bad guy, now you need a new big bad guy vampire, and you killed off the other ones.
I need to finish that series.
Now, many stories cannot be verified, and several are straight up ghost tour fiction. A lot of the Lalaurie house is New Orleans haunted, not real haunted.
I was kind of getting that vibe when you started this.
Now, most of the stories started in the early 1900s. And ever since, they've gotten crazier and crazier and wider to keep tourists coming back. So it's, of course, they say that, like, when someone did this and like 2 years later you come back, if you hear the same story, why the fuck did I pay for this ghost tour? So it's like, she ate a baby. Like, just throw that out there and somebody's going to be like,
oh, wow.
Wow. Woo.
Oh, wow.
Now, another thing is most of the brutal mutilation stories were invented in a book written well after the fact. They were not written at the time, other than within the Bee. Now, the problem with the Bee, it was the only newspaper at the time that mentioned mutilations, and the newspaper had the same reputation as the National Enquirer.
Whoopsie.
And most of their info came from Monsieur Montreal, who had attempted multiple times to have an affair with Madame Lalaurie, but she shot him down like, no, Ron, your tail is small. Go talk to Becky. But I brought you blue. No, I don't want blue, Ron. Go away.
Ron, I am married. I am also depressed.
I am unhappily, Ron, I am unhappily married, and I'm an abusive fuck. But go away, Ron.
Ron, fuck off.
Don't make my life worse, Ron.
I hate genders. Get out of here. No.
Goddamn. So, Madame Lalaurie did get fined. That there's proof within the legal system that Madame Lalaurie did get fined. She did have to go to court. She did have lawyer fees, and it was because of the mistreatment of her slaves, because she was cruel. She was found unusually cruel. Now, was it because she was actually unusually cruel, or was it because she was cruel and she was a woman? I cannot attest to that.
I'm going to go with the latter. That's just my personal opinion.
However, I still think she was fucking abusive as shit.
Oh, no. She was probably abusive as shit, but, like, being a woman probably, you know.
Now, most of the stories about the Laurie Mansion are 100% false. Most of the stories about Delphine Laurie are false. However, she was still a slaver. She was still an abusive slave owner. There is nothing to really redeem her other than she was not as shitty as people say. Now, my opinion, is the Laurie Mansion haunted? Yes. There's well over our lifetime of documented evidence that weird shit happens in that house. Is it all connected to Laurie? No. When the house is when this house was built in the 1830s and it's still standing today, 200 years later or nearly 200 years later, shit happens in a home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing. It's like, did someone die in a Chipotle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone's died at least in one. Someone's died in a Subway. Someone's died in a McDonald's.
However,
probably a haunted McDonald's out
nobody's died in Disney.
That's what they want you to say.
Officially, no one has died in Disney. No one is declared dead at a Disney park. They are declared dead in the parking lot.
I'm going to move on because if I say what I want to say...
No, both of you and I both know the truth.
Yeah,
however,
I know what you're saying, and I also know that I do not want to have to deal with any litigation from Disney.
Oh, I'm coming for you, Chris.
I'm coming for you. Your butt and your bank account is mine.
Oh shit, this is depressing. Wow, you work for me now.
What? This was supposed to be a palate.
No, let me bring this up. The modern references. Kathy Bates played Lady Laurie in American Horror Story.
That's cool.
She was cursed by Marie Laveau to never die, so she was disembodied, cut up. So at some point, it was just Kathy Bates' head on the table.
Marie Laveau wasn't like...
She was around at this time.
She was around at that time, but she wasn't like an evil person.
No. Laurie was, so she cursed her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage owned the house briefly. It was foreclosed on in 2009 because he stopped paying on it.
Right.
Currently, it is owned by a private family and not available for tours or ghost hunts unless you're Zach frickin' Baggins, the scariest hobbit of them all.
Okay.
My sources were hnoc.org, ghostcitytours.com, the prcno.org, what really happened to the Laurie Mansion, NewOrleansHistorical.org, GhostCityTours.org, and 64parishes.org.
Okay, well, as much as a palate cleanser this was, thank you for telling me this story, I guess.
Thank you for telling me this horrible story, Hewitt.
It's like, yeah, this is supposed to be upbeat.
Look, the palate cleanser was Dr. Laurie was a chiropractor.
Was that the whole thing? Like, that just made it...
You have no clue how much, like, I'm reading all these terrible things, and I'm like, what was Dr. Laurie? And they go, he was a chiropractor. And I go...
I mean, for me, it's just like, it just makes sense. It just makes sense.
It was the cherry on the shit sundae, Chris.
Anyway, we are Backwoods Obscura. We release every Tuesday. We are on Blue Sky. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok now, but we're also Team Bonus Action. Team Bonus Action is a charity D&D video game, tabletop board game group. We are not 100% sure at the time of this recording who we are partnered with. Usually during the early part of the year, we're partnered with the Trevor Project or St. Jude. So if you can donate, please do. Helping children is one of the best things you can do. And with that, I hope you have a good night or day or whatever time it is over there.